welcome to the BullCast podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me today is Cameron Spann.
Hello.
And Court Winsett.
Hello, Katie.
New news. Oh, wait, we can't say that. That's not our podcast.
Okay.
Isn't that what they say on In the Heights?
You know, I've never listened to it. I see clips on the internet all the time, but I have not listened to a full
I'm pretty
episode.
sure they say something like a part of their bit, like we would say, like, oh, we're in the meat and the potatoes, like their segment, they go like, new news.
There's this new 529 plans.
So we got new news. It's really funny. You know, we launched that we're doing this year. We're going back to some of the topics that we've talked about before because they're constantly evolving. They're constantly changing. And then think about it. Your parents always say, I've told you that 1,000 times, but sometimes it's that thousandth and one time that they've told you it.
1,000th and first.
Yeah, that sounds better than one.
So we're going back to basics this year. No more funsies?
And you're not saying one. Don't learn words from me, apparently.
Yeah, and obviously we always have to occasionally throw together a podcast episode rather quickly, and sometimes that leads to some shenanigans, some shenaniganery.
Yes.
Yep.
But we do want to try and stick to the topic which brought us here, which would be finance made simple.
Yeah, revisit some of the first episodes we did.
Absolutely, because things have changed. There's new ways to hear it. So 529 plan, 529, college education, there's a lot of people call it different things. But we've talked about this before. We've mentioned it in several episodes, but they've got new parameters around it. They've got new things that it can be used for. And it's interesting because I just was talking to a client the other day. I'm like, when are they going to change the dollar amount? Because it's been the same for eons. And then they just knew I needed them to change it. So in 2026, 529 plans became more flexible than ever. You know what? They're getting more flexible because it's the Olympics this year, right?
Stop. Just stop.
Already off the rails.
I did not sleep well last night, so I think I'm delirious.
Well, it's not as though everybody is just sitting around following the headlines about every single financial decision that Congress makes that affects the laws, that then affects some investment device that they may or may not even know exists. And so it's safe to say that not everybody is going to have heard that 529 or 529 plans have changed.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you, some of this stuff is pretty exciting for people who have people who they're saving for college for.
That's a lot of who.
That's a lot of, if you're paying
listen, the who's down in Whoville, they dig it. They are a target audience of ours.
So you're fine with him saying stuff like that,
well,
but me saying
I was going to double up. I was going to say there's like an alternative Whoville, the Whomville, and I feel like they wear like top hats and they're a little fancy.
Okay, this is bull crap. That y'all are fine with your crap, but I say flexible in the Olympics, and y'all are like, oh no, we're not doing that.
Okay, but listen,
So, if you're paying for private school, tutoring, if you're taking classes on how to be sarcastic on a podcast and what's okay and what's not.
In other words, career training.
Training. Your 529 may now help more than you think. Again, we're going to go over the basics. What is a 529 plan? And we're going to go over the new stuff. Before we get into that, we always have our list. The real college classes that sound fake, but aren't. And we kind of want to take them. Because remember, with the 529 plan, and we're going to go over this again, you can use the funds for educational institutions. So as long as it's an accredited educational institution, you can use it. So you could use it to take some of these classes we're going to discuss.
Can I please have the first one?
Let's go.
Coming from Pennsylvania State University would be the class Cow to Cone, ice cream making class. I feel like Mississippi State has this class because we have our own ice creamery. We have a cheese making, like a shop. Yeah. It's wonderful dairy products.
MTSU has their own milk.
Yeah.
So I know they've got classes on that.
Their own milk.
So Cow to Cone, hands-on workshop where students work with dairy cows and turn milk into ice cream plus frozen treats.
How fun.
Oh, listen to this one. Michigan State University has a class called Surviving the Coming Zombie Apocalypse. That's amazing. So students study past catastrophes and theorize how societies would respond to a zombie apocalypse scenario.
So if the apocalypse happens, I'm heading to Michigan State because they are training up people.
They're going to know. I would feel like that would need to be on your resume. Like, oh, well, I've taken the Surviving the Coming Zombie Apocalypse class. You're moving to the top of the list. Cornell University, tree climbing. Outdoor courses teaches rope system and climbing techniques, while expeditions like the Redwoods in Costa Rica.
Yeah, this is a pretty massive expedition if you think about it. if they take expeditions to Costa Rica for their tree class, then of course I want to take the tree class. I want to go check out some place like Costa Rica, or maybe go try and climb a redwood, even though you can't get your arms ninth of the way around the
So maybe it's
trunk.
kind of teaching you a little survivals.
All right, how about we head south to the University of California, Irvine, the science of superheroes. That sounds about right, with Marvel and DC just making movies every single month. This class, Physics and Scientific Principles Applied to Superheroes and Pop Culture Case Studies.
One of my favorite things is, and I've seen multiple people do like an analysis of, the superhero landing. You know what I'm talking about when I talk about the superhero landing? How
Kind of a squat with one hand down.
Squat with one hand down. And they've said that that's like absolutely the worst possible way that you could land from fast descent or a jump or something like that. You would just absolutely do hell on your knees. Yeah. So I wonder if they cover that. But anyway.
So Fashion Institute of Technology, making garments for dogs. Students design and sew clothing for their pets, learning patterns, sewing techniques, and sourcing fabrics.
Sounds like fun.
What kind of fabric do dogs like?
I don't know, but I'm sure my wife would love a class like that. She'd be making the pugs all kinds of outfits. It'd be crazy. Georgetown University has a Star Trek and philosophy class. Uses episodes of Star Trek to explore classic philosophical questions, time travel, identity, personhood. I don't know. That sounds pretty cool. I'm not a massive Star Trek fan, but I mean, I think I've seen all the movies and probably, at least most.
You're not
of
a Trekkie.
I'm not. I do not consider myself a Trekkie, but
That sounds the most reasonable out of all the classes. You're watching a piece of media, and then you're talking about the philosophies of what's said, what's being done.
I took a film class where we would watch movies and then we talk about relationships and like what you can learn from the dynamics of those movies and then how you apply it to communication.
let's move on to the topic of the day, which is 529 plan.
Yep. Okay, so 529 basics or 529. A plan is an education savings account where money can grow tax-free and be used tax-free for qualified education expenses. Did I say tax-free?
And also qualified education expenses. That's kind of always been the hang up, is what are the qualified education expenses? But
so why do people love them?
Yeah.
Tax-free growth. When used correctly, many states offer a state tax deduction or credit. It varies by state. Great for parents and grandparents. And it's a estate planning angle.
Yeah.
It's really cool because it's something that you can put money aside. You can start saving as soon as you have a social security number for the beneficiary. It is in the owner's name. So for instance, like I have one for my boys. It's in my name for the benefit of Griffin or Kinder. They do not have access to it. I am always the owner. At any point, I can change the beneficiary. It could, be used for Griffin, and then it could end up rolling over and then be used for my grandkids. It can just continue to build and grow.
As long as you own it, you can continue to change the beneficiary. And that is not new news. That is old news. That has been the case for 529s for a minute now.
Yeah. And so just another refresher on what they are. You're putting money in. There is a limit that how much you can put in each year. You can also front load it. So there's lots of requirements on how much you can put in and save, but it's great because it can be used for education. It can be used for trade school. It can be used for private school, but there's been a lot of different limitations. So what's new? The new news for this is the K through 12 withdrawal limit has doubled. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the area that I have said since I've been in the industry, it's been $10,000. You can use $10,000 for private education.
Yeah.
K through 12. Now, that number has not changed at all. You think about it. How much you can contribute to a Roth? How much is the limit for 401ks? How much is the limit? Everything else across the board has had a little tweak here and there. Maybe not every year, but every other year it's had a change, except for this.
And I can tell you for sure that while this particular distribution level has not changed, private school tuition sure has been going up over the years.
Yes, it has.
A couple years ago, then the $10,000 would have covered potentially a year.
Maybe. Yeah.
But now it's like, well, that can cover a chunk of it, but you got to pocket the rest of it.
Well, the point is, in 2026 tax year, parents aren't going to have to worry about that $10,000 limit anymore because they doubled it.
It's going to 20.
You get $20,000 that you can pull out
per
for
student.
private school expense.
Per student.
Yeah.
So families paying private school tuition or eligible K through 12 expenses now have twice the flexibility. Huge.
Here in our local area, there are probably quite a few people that pay some private school tuition, so that could be a big deal.
Okay, qualified expenses. So previously, this was really just the standard college, university, community college, trade schools, things like that. And it really, that was it. So now it's going to include tuition. We knew that. Textbooks and workbooks.
Tutoring.
Is huge.
By eligible educators, of course.
Yes.
Certain standardized testing fees. So again, if you've got if your kid is taking the SAT or the ACT or something like that,
AP exams,
you can pull money from the 529 to pay for those fees.
Dual enrollment fees for college level courses taking during high school.
That's another big one.
That's
especially
a huge one.
We've got a lot of dual enrollment classes taught at our local high school. The Collierville High School has a lot of dual enrollment. So
online educational materials and educational therapies for people with disabilities.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So definitely new things. 529 funds can now cover more than traditional colleges. Non-degree credential programs, skilled trades, workforce training programs, certification and licensing cost. That's huge. And continuing education requirements in certain cases. So think about a lot of these professions. Like I know our world, whether it's our accounting, our law firm, or our wealth advising firm, there's continuing education that has to happen. And so it can get expensive and it could require you go to a conference to get these, or you have to sit on and order them online, but it's an expense to it. So that is another huge thing, which a lot of times I'll have clients that go, well, we've got this money, we paid for their undergrad, or we paid for their undergrad and master's. What do we do with what's left? So that then is going to ask the question of looking at the options, because a couple of years ago we had where some of this money can be converted to a Roth IRA, which is huge. But now, because this includes some non-degree credential programs, certifications, licensing, and continuing education, you may then keep some of this money allocated for educational expenses that come up throughout your career.
Not to forget that you could potentially be the owner of a 529 plan and also be the beneficiary. You could actually make yourself the beneficiary of a 529 plan and use the 529 plan to pay for your ongoing continuing education as long as it qualifies. Remember, everything is always with qualification, qualified educational expenses. But anyway.
Side note, do you guys remember how expensive textbooks were in college?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was absolute racket.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Then at the end of the semester, you go and sell them back at the bookstore and get like pennies.
Yeah.
Awful.
Law school books were even higher than college than my college textbooks. The law school books were like single book, $600-$700. It just blew my mind.
Terrible.
Insane.
That was some nonsense. So look, here's the thing. You kind of
sorry, I kind of went there.
One of the things that people were always worried about is well, I can't, what if I do this 529 plan and put all this money in there and then it's just locked up because my kid ends up not going to college? Well, in addition to all the other ways that you can use 529 funds, thanks to the Secure Act 2.0, there is this ability now to roll 529 funds into a Roth IRA for the benefit of the beneficiary of the 529 plan.
So keep tax-free dollars growing tax-free.
Yeah. And then they can take it out, of course, when they reach retirement age or 59 and a half. So here are the key elements of rolling over a 529 plan. You have to, first of all, the 529 plan must have been open for at least 15 years.
Yep.
Contributions and earnings from the last 5 years before you roll it over cannot be rolled. And beneficiary must have enough earned income to be able to qualify to have a Roth IRA, because you have to have income to be able to open a Roth IRA. And then the Roth IRA must be owned by the same beneficiary. In other words, you will, once you roll it over into a Roth for the beneficiary of the 529 plan, you are no longer the owner. The beneficiary becomes the owner of that Roth.
So I'm curious as we're reading this, and I have not come across this yet, but I would assume, because what we know about Roth IRAs, we know that you have to be under the income limit to open a Roth IRA. Okay, so as we said, this is new, so we're still kind of learning the ins and outs of this, and I actually am just looking this up as we're all doing this podcast. Let's go back to some of the basics. What we know about a Roth IRA. In order to open an IRA of any type, you have to have earned income to contribute. And so you can put up to 100% of your earned income or the limit based on your age and what the current limits are based on the IRS. But we also know that with Roth IRAs, you can make too much money and be above the income limit where you are no longer allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA. This is different from a Roth 401k for y'all listening. Remember that. So my thought process is Court was talking about this, and this is a very niche scenario. So, we're probably going to get crucified by the powers that be that listen to this, that we're going too down in the details. But let's use, Cam as an example. If
I'm
Cam
ready.
is 21 years old, he's done with college, he's still got some money left in this 529 plan. In order to get to the 15 years, he's got to wait another, 5 or so years because of when he started it. By that time, he is making bukus of money. My question would be, can he then convert this money that's in a 529 plan to a Roth IRA? Because under the normal books, no, you're making too much money, Cam. You can't have a Roth IRA that you're actively contributing to. So would this be considered a contribution or not? So what I just looked up, again, because this was a special, this was under the Secure 2.0 Act, you can roll unused 529 plan funds to a Roth IRA, even if the beneficiary's income is too high for the direct contributions, because this is not a direct contribution. This is essentially a rollover. So just as you have a 401k rollover, this is a rollover from a 529 plan, which is growing tax-free, to another funding vehicle, a Roth IRA. But you are changing it from what's tied up for educational expenses to what's going to be tied up for retirement expenses. I was just curious about that, so I wanted to kind of spell that out for y'all. Okay, so sorry I went down that deep dive, but I just need to do that for my own sanity. Who should pay attention to this?
Me.
Everybody. You, yeah.
Parents of young kids. Is it cruel that I kind of don't want to do a 529 plan for my kids because I had to pay for college?
I mean,
it goes back to behavioral and I'll ask that question when people have kids, because I just assume, do you want to pay for college? And a lot of people have very distinct opinions. It's like, we want to help and we want to prepare, but we want them to be on their own and do it. Some people want them to take out loans to have that. And from a planning perspective, I always say, okay, you want your kids to do it on their own, but do you see yourself in any capacity wanting to help out? If you do, we should do some kind of savings that they don't have to do anything about it. Because even if you put it up and it's, Cam's the owner and Stella's the beneficiary, Stella doesn't have to know about it.
Right.
She doesn't get any notice, unlike some other type of accounts that are for kids, the Uniform Trust Minors Act, those type of accounts. Then those the kid gets access to. So they do know about those accounts. They'll get that money. Families paying for private school or planning to. This is a huge change going from $10,000 to $20,000. And grandparents who want to gift intentionally. 529 plans are a great legacy gift with flexibility. I do love that. And it is really hard to think about this little bitty baby or this 5-year-old, 10-year-old. What are they going to be doing? But because there's so much flexibility now, I think it makes it very attractive, because there really is only a few places where you can grow money tax-free.
Well, and also back to your original question, Cameron, when you live in an area where you want your kids to go to a private school instead of a public school, start the 529 saving as early as possible so that you can use those funds to pay for their private school education. It benefits you more than it does them, because your parents may not have paid for your college, but I'm assuming that you're leaving yourself on the hook for your kids' secondary education, the stuff before college.
Right.
And so, if you've got money that you're putting in there now, by the time, at least, for instance, when Tripp hits high school, you may have a good bit of savings saved up and you can pay for him to go to a private high school if you want to.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I win.
You won. And that's the end of the show, y'all.
And that's it. He just says he wins. But seriously, this is a short and sweet one. Talking about education saving. Now, because I've got your attention talking about education savings, life is a balance. And so I stress to you, look at everything as a singular, but also look at the bigger picture, because yes, it's very easy to focus on, well, I need, X amount saved up to then fully fund my kids' college. But if you just focus on meeting that goal to fund college for your kids, but you're not thinking about in retrospect to your retirement, to your now, to things like that, then it's going to be out of balance. So you've got to make sure you have a balance. And while, yes, I could run an analysis that says, Cam, you need to be able to save, $500 in this account every month. But then I'm also telling you, you need to save $500 in your retirement and you need to save this, you need to save that. You're going, Katie, my $1,000 that I have that I can save, you just allocated in 5 different places. And that's why we go to the drawing board and say, okay, what's the most important? Let's balance it out that way. So, yes, these are great. I continue to always advocate for 529 plans as a great planning tool, but you've got to make sure it fits your situation and it's the right thing. But hey, we just rolled off of Christmas. You probably have a lot of toys and things laying around. This is something great to set up and encourage grandparents, relatives, anything that, hey, for the kids' birthdays, for their Christmas, for things like that, contribute to their education account. Because that's one of my favorite gifts to give is a contribution to an education account. Because then, yeah, it's not sexy. The kids don't like it. But it's really it's helping the parents.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
What'd you call that?
Bullseye.
Bullseye.
Absolutely.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's the closing bell. You've made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, or Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. We've got pictures up there, we've got our bios, and we've got a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But hey, I mentioned pictures. We do have pictures on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is at BullCast Podcast. We also have an X handle, which is also at BullCast Podcast. And rounding out the social media, we have a Facebook page, which is BullCast the Podcast. So drop on by there and say hi. But ladies and gentlemen, as I do on every episode, let me remind you that Katie, Cameron, Nicole, and I all work for a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out more about us, find out about what we do, find out about what we could do for you, find out about our amazing team, and find out about our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've given you everything you need to go forth and save some money for college. Woohoo! So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we're done.